All right, welcome to the City Council meeting. We're going to call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, and we will declare the meeting open. At this time, I'm going to ask Deputy Mayor Howard to lead us in our pledge and invocation.
You all please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come together tonight to do the business of the city. We ask your guidance as we go through the agenda. We also ask that you bless this city. You have been so good to us recently, and we never say thank you enough for all of the wonderful blessings that you are providing us in the city. We want to always do things that will honor you and will honor our residents and our constituents in Sherman. Thank you, dear Heavenly Father. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, Council, have you had the opportunity to look over the minutes from the meeting August 6th?
Mr. Mayor, I move to accept those minutes.
Okay,
Second.
motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. All right, at this time, we will open public hearing. Linda, if you'll read B1 for us, please.
Proposed agreement with Globotech Incorporated, a Delaware corporation, for the abatement of ad valorem property taxes for improvements within Industrial Reinvestment Zone number 082018-01, City of Sherman, Texas.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Mary?
Yes, this is the public hearing for the proposed tax abatement agreement with Globotech. This project adds about $47 million in real property and equipment to the current Globotech facility. The abatement is for 8 years, and this is the first phase of a 3-phase expansion, and Globotech is here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mary. Is there anyone here to speak on this, on item B1 this evening? No? If you'd like to.
Come on, Terry.
Come on, Terry.
We want to hear you, Terry.
Thank you. I'm Terry Kleesner. I'm Administrative Manager of Globotech, and I appreciate this opportunity to be heard. As mentioned, this is a $47.5 million capital investment that will create 32 jobs, and it is part of a planned 3-phase addition, which would be another $63 million of investment and another 61 jobs. We are very large at this point, largest facility like us in the world. And in addition, you'll be happy to know that we used a lot of water, and this will increase that water usage substantially. So that's enough as far as I'm concerned. Any questions?
Hey, Terry, when we, excuse me, when we first started this process, I think you were kind of waiting to hear where we were, and then you were going to go back to your corporate, and it was still kind of up in the air whether or not this was going to happen.
Right.
We're going to have a meeting. Have we got any progress? I mean, is this
Yeah,
a done deal?
our parent company is very much in favor. If we complete this, as well as the county abatement agreement, which is on their agenda tomorrow, we have approval.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Terry.
All right, is there anybody else to speak on this item this evening? Okay, if not, we'll move on to B2. Linda?
Capital Improvement Program 2018 through 2023.
Okay, Mary?
Yes, this is the public hearing for our capital improvement program as required by the city charter. The program covers 5 years with only the first year funded through the 2019 budget, and the projects over the entire 5-year period total $175 million.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Is there anyone here to address item B2 this evening? No? Okay. Moving on to B3. Linda, if you'll read that for us.
Ordinance 6144, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman providing for the appropriation of funds for operating and capital expenditures for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2018 and ending September 30, 2019, providing for a repealer, finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. This budget will raise more total property taxes than last year's budget by $988,000 and 8%. And of that amount, $243,000 is revenue to be raised from new property added to the roll this year. Okay, Mary?
Yes, this draft budget is essentially the same budget as presented at the workshop and reviewed at the August 6th council meeting. It contains $67 million for operations and another $32 million in capital expenses, including our debt-funded projects.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Is there anyone here to address this item this evening? No? Okay. Linda, if you'll read B4 for us.
Ordinance 6145, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman providing for the levy of ad valorem taxes for the City of Sherman, Texas for the tax year 2018, distributing the same among the various funds, providing for a penalty and interest for failure to pay the taxes levied within the time provided by law, providing for a repealer, finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. The City Council will consider the adoption of the tax rate ordinance at the regular meeting scheduled for 5 p.m. on Monday, September 17th, 2018 at Sherman City Hall, 220 West Mulberry Street, Sherman, Texas.
Yes, this is the first of two required public hearings that must be held before the tax rate can be adopted, since the proposed rate, even though it's the same as last year's rate, it's higher than the effective tax rate. So the next public hearing will be September 4th, and as you mentioned, the final adoption is scheduled for September 17th.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. Is there anyone here to address this item this evening? All right, Linda, if you'll read B5 for us.
Ordinance 6146, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman ordering an election of the qualified voters of the City of Sherman, Texas on the 6th day of November 2018 for the purpose of electing a mayor and 2 at-large city council members for said city, providing that said election shall be held jointly with Grayson County, Texas, designating election precincts, appointing election officials, providing for notice of said election, providing for the use of direct recording electronic voting equipment, providing for early voting, finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Thank you, Linda. Robbie?
Yeah, this is just the ordinance that orders the election for November 6th, as Linda read. So this will be our election for the 2 at-large spots and the 1 mayor spot. And there's another agenda item that we'll be looking at that is actually the kind of an interlocal with the county who now runs all of our elections. So.
Okay. Thank you, Robbie. Is there anyone here to address item B5 this evening? Okay. All right, at this time, we will close public hearing. We are going to consider item F1 out of order because it has to do with an item in public hearing. Linda, if you'll read F1 for us, please.
Providing for the ratification of the property tax increase.
Okay.
Yes, state law requires that a separate agenda item and vote on the increase in the property taxes we'll receive next year. It needs to be separate from the vote on the budget and on the tax rate. So this agenda item fulfills that requirement. The rate is the same, however, we will receive more revenue in the next budget because of the increase in property values and new property added to the tax roll.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I want to move to ratify the property tax increase proposed in the budget ordinance number 6144.
Okay. Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. This time, we'll consider the adoption of the ordinances. We're going to take these separately. Do what? You want to ask questions again? There's no change orders.
No, I had a few questions about the capital expenditures.
That we're not there yet. That was just the
I
rate.
thought you said 6144, but maybe I misunderstood you.
I did say 6144.
Okay. So we move to approve F1. And now we close public hearing. So at this time, if you have questions about the other items we discussed in public hearing, please ask them.
Okay, so the capital expenditure program that was presented to us was similar to what was presented to us at the, I had just a few questions that didn't ring a bell to me.
Sure.
The EMS building, $950,000, was that, it may have been before my time, was that part of the original new fire station, number 4?
Yes to both. It was before, we first started talking about it before you came back on. And that is what we've considered to be phase 2 or 3, whatever you want to call it, to the fire station 4 that's being built now. So what's being contemplated is, of course, fire station 4 is about done. Should be done in the next 2 months or so. And then as a part of that, there's an EMS facility that's being contemplated, and then a training facility as well, a training tower and some other things. So the one that you mentioned is the EMS and meeting space that's $900 and some odd $1,000, as I recall.
So we'll ultimately create a fire EMS complex out there.
Yeah, it's more of a complex, and a campus
Training.
out there for training. And I mean, right now we do the fire training out, on the south end of town in a facility that's that needs to be replaced.
Right, right.
So yeah.
And then I know we'd had some discussion kind of behind the scenes about the expenditures on the police department. And I noticed that the largest expenditure was moved into the next budget year, but the 416,000 that will be spent this year, is that, I mean, do we still do that even though we may reconsider the overall picture of what we have planned for the police station?
So yeah, what we're looking at for the police station is the coming back with an alternative that would, instead of fully renovating the entire police station as we talked about in the summertime, it would be a partial renovation of some magnitude yet to be determined, with a full build out of a new station located somewhere else. And the reason I say partial renovation, it's contemplated that either we would advance in the manner that we talked about at the budget workshop, which is full renovation that would allow us to expand some space for a few years. Or the second alternative is going to be a new station that would house us for 20 to 30 years. But at any case, we believe that we would need to keep some of the operations downtown.
Right, correct.
And so what's now today in the CIP is still
Would be done no matter what, whether we.
it needs to be done no matter what. And some of it relates to architectural and kind of design type services, and others are going to have to be done no matter what. Now, the scope of the no matter what may change depending on the direction of the council, but we expect that I think we're shooting for October is the presentation that we would come back to the council with this kind of a second alternative that we didn't explore at the budget workshop. We've got the architect off doing some kind of a site plan type work and a workflow to determine what size of building, which will then dictate cost and whatnot. So we expect a nice presentation here in the next couple of months.
Okay.
So Robbie, I got this question about that as well. So knowing that we, and correct me if I'm wrong, and did we have the $4.5 million after the budget workshop allocated for this year for the police department? Was that part of our proposed budget for this year prior to this meeting?
So it was the debt issuance for that has not happened yet, and that would happen as part of 2019. But yes, the $4.5 million was put in the budget for both the 5-year CIP and the budget for 2019. Yes, Mary? Knowing that it's kind of a placeholder right now.
And so then did we reallocate some of those funds in the different areas on this budget without comparing it to what we did in the budget workshop? Would be Would we see that somewhere else in here for this 19 year?
No, it's still in there,
Okay.
like, as it sits right now.
It's still there.
It's in there now, knowing that depending on the direction we get in October, that may change. So the funds would just go unspent is what would happen if we decide to take a different track. And that would delay some things because it would take, if we do go the track of a brand-new station somewhere else, the design and land acquisition, if we don't already have it, all of that's going to take some time. So really the substance of what would happen is most everything would get delayed. We would probably pursue a little bit of renovation, and then the police station build would end up being probably a 2020 or a 2021 CIP item.
Well, I think the concern is whether or not we're going to get locked into something here that we're not sure that we're going to do yet.
Well, this doesn't require us to spend it. It just allows us to do that if we decide to take that path.
Okay.
So it doesn't commit us to anything. It just
It's a working plan. It's always.
it's a working
changing,
plan.
just like the
and
budget as we go.
Without it, what would happen is if we decided to go on with just the renovation and we didn't have this in the budget, then you would have to amend the budget that you're about to adopt to be able to do that project. So.
But if we decided we didn't want to move ahead with this and reallocate the dollars towards the secondary thing we're talking about with the police station, would that be acceptable as a
Yeah,
trend?
sure. This money, in theory, you could approve this budget, and then we could move forward with none of it, and the money would just go unspent, is what would happen.
Okay.
It would go unspent, and we wouldn't issue debt for it, which was contemplated in summer of 19. So we've got plenty of time to work through this issue, I think.
Okay.
And Robbie, in this capital expenditure on the police station, does it include, and I know in the money we're saying tonight, the closing in of the drive, which I think is a high priority, to where we close that part in regardless.
Sure. So the money, because the full project is in the budget, it would include in closing that in. What we'll have to decide as part of whichever path we take is what does the securing of that building look like? I don't know if you remember the very first time we talked about this project, we talked about just putting bollards up, for instance, that would prevent vehicle access underneath it. That would be one much cheaper solution, but we'll talk about all of that in October, because we'll be able to scale it how we need to. So.
Okay.
Robbie, one more question, and I apologize,
No,
but
you're good.
I don't get to talk to you very often, so this is kind of an opportunity. I know we had talked about the Kessler Hunt drainage repairs, very small project, but it's very concerning to me. And it looks like we have $250,000 allotted this year for that, but it appears to me it's just to repair the damage to the box culvert and the piping. Money in there to straighten that up, make that look presentable, or doesn't look like a bomb went off.
So, right. So Clint will speak to that project.
So on the Woodside Street, we've already started cleaning up. Parks has gone in there and removed some of the excess dirt and riprap, and are working. Once it dries out, they'll level that out and then start getting grass to grow in there so we can mow it with a finish mow instead of a rough mow. The other side of the street, once the sewer line is moved, I was talking with Parks just today about what we could do with that slope to make it look more presentable.
Are we going to get rid of the temporary barricade in the road there, the asphalt?
The road will disappear completely. We'll go back and there'll be curb and gutter that goes along there. So the idea is you wouldn't be able to tell it was a street once we get done with it.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 businesses right there that
Yeah.
have put up with that, I think, long enough,
Yeah.
so. Okay.
Did we
Mr.
have
Mayor,
a time?
that's all.
Oh, excuse me.
No, I'm finished.
Good questions.
Now, what was the timeline on that project at Kessler?
I don't know that we
Do we
have a
have-
specific timeline.
Okay.
Once we get the design plans, we've got to acquire an easement from the adjacent property owner for the sewer. And that should be, the next couple of weeks, I should be able to start acquiring that easement.
Is that on Pecan? The sewer easement that we need, is that on Pecan or on?
It's on the area that Trax use for their overflow parking right now.
Across the street?
Oh,
Yeah, across the
Gotcha.
street.
okay,
By the pizza joint.
right.
Clint, I also have a question for you about the Overland Trail sewer redo there. I know that's something that's also allocated in here for the 250, and I spoke to Robbie about that a little bit. Is that is where the road is kind of caving in there on Overland?
It's dropped, yeah.
That there's, that 250 is allocated to go in there and repave that and also take care of the drainage under there to make sure it doesn't keep happening?
Yeah, our initial investigation didn't show any specific areas in that pipe that were failing, which we were kind of hoping to see, so we'd know exactly what was going on there. But yeah, the idea is to remove the road, recompact. If we have to fix some storm drain pipe, fix the storm drain pipe, and then put new paving on top of it.
And timelines we can talk to you later about, but that's something that's probably later in the year, next year, maybe? Okay, thank you.
We kicked that horse.
Yeah.
I'm finished.
Any other questions? Good discussion.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so we'll take 6144 first. Go
ma'am.
vote on these separately.
Make a motion, we approve 6144.
Second?
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Now 6146.
Make a motion that we approve 6146.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. All right, we are down to the consent agenda. These items are considered to be routine and will be enacted in one motion without discussion unless a council member or a citizen requests a specific item to be discussed and voted on separately. The consent agenda includes items C5, C6, D1, E1, and F2. Would anyone like for any of these items to be separated for any reason?
Mr. Mayor, I move for
Okay.
us to approve the consent agenda.
Okay,
Second.
motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Thank you. All right. Linda, if you'll read resolution,
No, man. Yeah, you should have.
They slid that change order
I
in.
know.
Change order on us, tagged us.
Even though we already voted to approve it, I would like a little explanation about Vessels Construction coming back for $400 and putting it on this agenda. How much money did they make off of that deal? 98,000, what was it?
It says 852,000.
$852,000 deal, and they're coming back for $400? That
is
seems a
now.
little nickel and dime, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a unit price contract, so we pay them for what they do, and we don't pay them for what they don't do. And if you go and look at that, it wasn't just one item. There was about 6 items there that there was some give and take of about 2,500. So
Well, you're squeaking by. Okay, sorry, rant
Sorry.
over.
okay. All right, moving right along.
Right.
We're down to resolution 6392. Linda, if you'll read that for us.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Sherman authorizing execution of an agreement with Globotech Incorporated, a Delaware corporation, for the abatement of ad valorem property taxes for improvements within Industrial Reinvestment Zone Number 08-2018-01, City of Sherman, Texas. Finding that the meeting at which this resolution is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Mary?
This is the resolution related to the Globotech tax abatement agreement, and we're asking the council to authorize this agreement.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Council, any questions?
Mr. May I move to approve?
Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, resolution 6393. Linda, if you'll read that for us.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Sherman approving and adopting a 5-year capital improvement program for the City of Sherman, Texas. Finding that the meeting at which this resolution is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Thank you, Linda. Mary?
This is the resolution for the council to approve the 5-year capital program that was discussed during the public hearing.
Okay. Council, any questions on this item?
Move to approve 6393.
Second?
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, Linda, if you'll read C3 for us.
Resolution 6394, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sherman authorizing execution of a joint election agreement with Grayson County, Texas to hold a joint election on November 6, 2018, finding that the meeting at which this resolution is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Robbie?
Yes, this is the actual election agreement that we talked about on B5 for the November 6th election date. So this is authorizing us to let Grayson County do the administrative side of the election for us.
All right. Thank you. Council, any questions on this item?
I move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, 6395. Linda?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Sherman authorizing execution of an agreement for professional services with H.W. Lochner Incorporated for the engineering design of intersection improvements at Heritage Parkway, FM 1417, and Obie Groner Road, to be known as West Travis Street, finding that the meeting at which this resolution is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Clint?
This is an engineering contract for the design of Obie Groner in 1417. This will help meet the future high school traffic demands. And we will be actually partnering with Sherman ISD on the cost of the construction. The project itself is on a TxDOT road, so it will be bid and managed by TxDOT.
Clint, I do have a question for you on that one. Is this, is TxDOT, is this typical that we would spend the money for the engineering and design of an intersection that's going to be a TxDOT intersection that they would own? And
If we want it on our schedule, yes.
okay. So this is going to be
And to some degree, if we want the project, period. We've done this on about 4 other sections of TxDOT. We did this on the 1417 project up north from 82 to 56. We did it on the Highway 75 northbound ramp reversals. Actually, we did more. We actually paid for or will pay for the construction of that as well. So, yeah, it is typical now for us to do the design, engineering, and right-of-way acquisition. This one, there's probably not going to be a whole lot of right-of-way. There may be a little bit, but corner clips or something. But unfortunately, it is typical for us to do that.
So then once we design it, they'll build it to our specs if we say we want it to look a certain way.
Well, they will, we'll work with the engineers who have a working relationship with TxDOT. They have to be an approved TxDOT vendor, but Lochner does a whole lot of work for TxDOT in the North Texas area, and they've done the design work on the other 1417 project as well. So, we will be able to influence, if you will, what we want to see there from a design standpoint. The trick on this particular one is, so we'll have Travis Street designed and built 4 lanes, median divided, by the time the high school gets up and running. But the TxDOT will not have had 1417 improved or expanded in that area until after this intersection is done. So there's going to be a little bit of coordination that's got to happen on ultimate design versus what we have in place, when we get it in place today. So nothing we can do about that, but we do feel like we need to get this intersection addressed before the high school opens, and the only way to do that is to do what we're doing tonight.
And this 177, last question I have, is that's included in our participation level on our what we've budgeted for our participation to TxDOT for that entire project?
So the short answer is yes. And just for the benefit of the council and the rest of the listening audience who may care or not, but typically nowadays TxDOT wants you to do the engineering, design, right-of-way acquisition, and pay for that up front, and that's kind of an in-kind match to their participation levels. In addition to that, sometimes we have to put cash in as well, and it's proportionately it's a small piece, but the only way to get it on their radar or on their plans is to actually spend local dollars to get that, because they have they say they have more projects than they have dollars, and the only way to get it is for us to have what they call shovel-ready projects, which means that engineering's done, right-of-way's done, utility relocation is done, and then they're ready. They can fight for it on our behalf then in Austin for local projects.
I move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we are down to citizens' request. Is there anyone here to address the council this evening?
Do we do F2, Mr. Mayor?
Did I miss one?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, that was in the consent. Excuse me.
Yeah, that was part of consent. Yes. Come on up. Mr. Acock, state your name and address for the record.
Ronald Acock, property owner, 220 East Houston. I have 4 questions. First 3, anyone qualified to answer it with the correct answer will be appreciated. The 4th question, I will address to City Manager Hefton for the answer. First question is, what type of government is the city of Sherman?
Or a home
Home rule, city.
So, well, first of all, hey, Brandon?
I was writing the question down.
Okay,
Yes.
so just need to clarify here, that, typically under citizens' concerns, there can't be back and forth dialogue. So I need Brandon to let us know whether these questions need to be taken outside of this meeting and us just get with you directly, or?
This sort of question is very fact-based, and I can answer it. That we're a home rule city, which means that at some point we had a population over 5,000, and the citizens elected to ratify a charter. So we're governed by that charter. About 25% of the cities in the state of Texas are home rule.
Okay. What date, month, year did it become this type?
That's also a fact-based answer, but I don't know the answer to that question. I believe Sherman's one of the oldest home rule cities in the state of Texas, but I'm not sure of the date.
It's on that, I've seen it somewhere on the picture.
Yeah, it's on the picture around here somewhere.
So how do you suggest I get the answers?
If you'll send an email or a call tomorrow, I'm sure that information is readily available, probably in Ms. Ashby's office.
Okay, then third one, what type was it prior to that?
So, depending on when Sherman was incorporated, it was some sort of general law city before it became a home rule city. Sherman's big enough; it may have had more than the 5,000 initially. So I don't know the answer to the question.
Does anyone know when it went to home rule?
Yes, we can find
That's what
that answer.
you're asking for. That's question number 2, right?
Question number 3. Question number 2 was what date, month, year did it become this home
Right,
rule?
and we can find that answer out.
And
for you.
I'm sorry, so question number 3 was,
What type was it prior to becoming a home rule?
so it's either general law or home rule. So general law would be the answer.
Not to get giving me one answer, you're giving me 2 answers, right?
General law,
It's general law,
general law,
prior.
yes.
Last question addressed to you is, what date did you become city manager?
April 1st, 2015.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Anyone else? I want to thank Well, let's move on here and the media questions. Hi, Jerry. No questions this evening? Council comments? Councilman Holland, I'm going to start with you.
Nothing at this point, Mayor.
Okay?
Well, I was just, like to say, I did a quick Google search while we were waiting, and it looks like we were incorporated in 1850, but I don't know the month and date, but just, it was gonna bother me all night if I didn't figure that out, but,
Okay.
outside of that, Jerry, good to see you tonight. That's, about the only comments I have.
I have no comments.
No comments, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I would just like to thank the county treasurer for being here this evening and recognize her and the wonderful job that she does, and that's the extent of my comments.
Okay. Thank you for being here. I did want to recognize Betsy. Betsy, what's going on at the museum these days? You ready for History Comes Alive? Okay. Awesome.
This is Natalie, she's the new assistant director.
Hi, Natalie. All right. Great. Well, thank you all for coming out. All right, we've got some announcements. Keep Sherman Beautiful is looking for volunteers to help with the annual Battle of the Axe Trash Off on Saturday, August 25th. Y'all know we've got our hands full on a trash off with Denison, so everybody show up for this. Last year, we absolutely crushed Denison. We need to make sure that happens again. Bring your family out Saturday morning and help Sherman defend its title. All right, Sherman's annual Arts Fest is right around the corner with hundreds of vendors, great local musicians, and tons of kids' activities too. This year's event will be held on Saturday, September 15th, right across the street in Kid Key Park. Make plans to join us. Then on Friday, September 28th, we'll be welcoming George Strait's personal songwriter, Dean Dillon, to Kid Key Auditorium for the Blue Sky Storytellers Gathering. Dean and several other great Texas songwriters will take the stage to benefit Sherman Police and Fire Association, so please get your tickets. And it's not only Dean Dillon. There's some pamphlets in the back. We've got Scotty Emmerich, Chris Wallen, Jason Allen, Doug Moreland with Randy Roberts, and Philip Wildman. This is going to be a great event. All proceeds go to Sherman Fire and Police, and just going to be a good time. If you guys need to Google up these artists if you don't know who they are. It's quite an impressive gathering. So put that on your schedule and come out for a good time. All right. I want to thank the Melissa and all the folks at the library for having a great carnival this weekend on Saturday. It's a wonderful attended event. Our new library looks fantastic. So if you haven't been by, go check it out. All right. Other than that, got a motion to
Make a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Okay. Motion. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No executive.
Nice, take it.